All right, we're going to get started now. Good evening and welcome to the Monday, June 14th, 2021, 6 p.m. regular meeting of the Bell Garden City Council. The meeting will now come to order. Pursuant to Executive Order N2920, please be advised that members of the Bell Garden City Council will participate in today's meeting telephonically. Council members and staff are participating from remote locations. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting while online through the city's website, as noted on the agenda. If any city council members should have a conflict of interest, virtually please leave the room by turning off video and muting yourself. You may still keep listening to the meeting. And today, to help us with the invocation, we have Pastor Reynaldo Leal. Very quickly, Pastor, I want to ask if everyone can hear you. I cannot hear you, but maybe it's a technical issue. Okay, several of us can't hear you. I believe last time it was about clicking the icon on the lower right portion of your screen and selecting unmute original audio, and I think that will fix it there.
Yep, that fixed it.
We could see
Okay,
that
Yes,
your
I
screen
think
on.
I think we all, if you can't hear them, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and click on the lower. Okay, I can hear you now, Pastor. So if you cannot hear Pastor Leal, please go ahead and click on the icon towards your bottom right portion of your screen and select unmute original audio, and that should fix it. We're all good? Okay. Yes, go for it. Go for it, Pastor. Thank you for your patience. Thank you, Pastor. It's a pleasure having you here today. We appreciate it. And now to help us with with the with the Pledge of Allegiance, excuse me, is our city manager, Michael Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor Barcena. Everyone, please rise, face the flag, place your right hand over your heart, and say the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. City Clerk, will you please call the roll of the City Council?
Yes, Mayor. Council members Chavez,
present.
Cortez,
Present.
Flores,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Polito,
Present.
and Mayor Barcena.
Present. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. City Attorney, will you please give the closed session report for City Council and Successor Agency?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The Successor Agency and the City Council is now back in open session, having met in closed session to discuss the items posted on tonight's agenda. With respect to item number 1 under Successor Agency agenda, the Successor Agency received a report from legal counsel and city staff. Feedback was provided, but no final action was taken. With respect to item 2 under the Successor Agency agenda, the Successor Agency received a report from legal counsel and city staff. Again, feedback was provided, but no final action was taken. With respect to the sole item on tonight's City Council agenda, the City Council received a report from the city's negotiator. Feedback was provided, but no final action was taken. Thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney. And now we are moving to our presentations for the day. We have a proclamation and also 3 certificates that we are going to be awarding members of our community. But to start off, I want to talk about LGBTQ and how it is Pride Month, and we have a beautiful flag right now in the front of our City Hall building, and we have other plans to continue to support members of our community that have been marginalized, and we are celebrating who they are this month of June. So I will go ahead and recite this beautiful proclamation that, with the help of our city clerk and our staff, we've put together for our LGBT community. A proclamation in honor of LGBTQIA plus Pride Month. Whereas, as we celebrate June as Pride Month in Bell Gardens, California, we are reminded of what makes California great, our remarkable capacity to advance together across every conceivable difference, no matter the physical distance between us. From our separate homes, we stand together with the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual, and more community of Bell Gardens as they declare their pride in who they are and whom they love. And whereas the LGBTQIA plus community has worked tirelessly for respect, equality, and their very right to exist, their battles have been fought in the courts, from marriage equality to demanding equal protection under the law. And whereas, while there has been a remarkable progress towards acceptance and equality in recent years, members of the LGBTQIA plus community in the United States and around the world still face an unacceptable level of discrimination and violence. This includes people who aren't safe at home and those who do not have a home in which to stay. And whereas we must push back against those who threaten the safety of LGBTQIA plus Bell Gardens residents and challenge our progress. And we must continue to make the case that all human beings share something fundamental in common. All of us want to be loved, and all of us want to love. We cannot march in a parade this June, but we can and will stand with our LGBTQIA plus family, friends, and neighbors. And whereas Pride celebrations may look different this year, but in Bell Gardens, no matter the circumstances, we are proud to support our LGBTQIA plus community's right to live their lives out loud. As we celebrate Pride in Bell Gardens and across the state, we must continue to demand equal rights for all to create a California for all. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Marco Bárcena, Mayor of the City of Bell Gardens, with the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2021 as LGBTQIA plus Pride Month in Bell Gardens and encourage all residents to eliminate prejudice wherever it exists and celebrate our community. Proclaim this 14th day of June 2021. I want to just clap a little bit. That was beautifully written, by the way. You guys did a great job there. So now moving on to our next certificate, we are going to be honoring our high school basketball team. So first of all, I want to thank Councilmember Chavez for bringing this up to me. It's a pleasure for me to recognize the athletes, the young athletes of the city of Bell Gardens. This is not about me, but there's a reason why I'm so proud of you guys. It's because I also spent a lot of my early years in high school, 4 years in swimming, 4 years in water polo, and 1 year in track. So I was doing sports all the time. So I know how hard everyone works out there. And I want to commend you guys for this achievement. So this is the certificate of recognition for the team that we're putting together today. And I'm gonna go ahead and read it. Um, the Bell Garden City Council is honored to recognize and congratulate you for taking the Almond League Championship after 23 years. That's quite an achievement there, and we're very, very proud of you. We're proud of the coaching, leadership, and the entire team on all your hard work, commitment, and dedication. Go Lancers! So great job, guys. And I wanna see if the coach is here. I believe he's on the call, and I wanna open it up to see if he has any words for us.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for taking the time to acknowledge these boys' accomplishment. It says a lot about you guys as leaders that you recognize what's going on in our local schools. Um, I also want to point out that this doesn't happen in a vacuum. We couldn't have accomplished what we did without a great administration. Our principal, Mr. Miranda, always supportive. Our athletic director, Mr. Jordan, was available 24/7 to me every time we needed things. He was always there. And above all else, this is about these boys. 23 years, you don't change history like that without having a special group, and it was a truly special group. We all know what a challenge the pandemic was. We did virtual workouts. We we thought we were going to play, then we didn't know. We were, yanked back and forth. The schedules constantly changed. The boys had to test 2, sometimes 3 times a week in order to play the season, and they endured all that and won the championship. And they couldn't have done that without being a truly special group. I'm proud to say that I'm their coach. I think the city should be proud. They should be proud of themselves. Their families should be proud because this group really represented the Bell Gardens name the right way.
Thank you again, Coach Matthew, for those words and for making the time to recognize your team today and being here with us. And again, thanks to Jorge for bringing this to our attention. We're very, very happy to recognize the team. And you
Mayor
guys keep
Barton.
winning, keep doing a great job. You guys are going to go very far. This is just one small win, but you guys have a whole life ahead of you.
Mm-hmm. Mayor Barson, I just wanted to add something. Coach Matthew, I don't know if you know, probably not, but I was a basketball player at Bell Gardens High School myself, and basketball changed my life. I had never done any physical competitive sports prior to that. And something that I did learn over at Bell Gardens High School is that there's that real Lancer spirit. So to everybody, I know that this year was wrapped in COVID-19. You're the only year, the only class in ever hopefully that has whose life revolved about what COVID-19 was doing to you in order for you to go to school or not go to school or play your games or not. And I think that this is that you are very unique and know that in the midst of this tragedy, you guys won. And it's phenomenal. I'm so proud of you. When I found out, I got goosebumps. I'm like, what? We used to lose every game. What do you mean? Like, they're champions. So I can't believe that, we've come all this way. And I feel like I'm a part of it because, once you're a baller, you'll always be a baller. I still own basketball shorts. So thank you so much, guys. Congratulations. And this is the crazy. So this is how you taught them. Nobody turned on their camera. How would you recognize your players?
They're all in here on GHS basketball team. I'm not sure if they were able to turn on their cameras, but
It's
boys,
okay.
if you can turn on your cameras real quick, so the council can see you. And yeah, I'm sure some of them are outside together as well.
They're a
They're
sharp, successful group.
on next season.
Congratulations, guys. Best
Congrats.
of luck on all your endeavors. You guys are champions, and we're here to support you guys.
Thank you.
Mayor Barson, if I may.
Go ahead.
Well, where do I begin with this? Coach Ware, I mean, me and you go way back. You used to be my teacher. You taught me AP World History. So, I mean, I know that I've been in your classroom. I know how you get with the students. Very interactive, very supportive, always giving them that motivation that they can do it and more than that, right? So, for our students in the Bell Gardens High School basketball program, I mean, a big part of why they won was because of your leadership as a coach. I'm telling you, I've been in this classroom. I've been in the classroom with you. I seen the sort of good pressure, right, and good courage that you promote with them. And I mean, words can't describe just the amount of attention that you put to each student. And I think it's not just coming from me as a former student, but I mean, I think all around in the high school, the administration sees it, the director sees it. I remember seeing a lot of the things that were put on social media where you were outside, right? We don't have a nice, big, fancy, big gym, but we do have an outside where the boys' locker room is, and you'd have your little whiteboard out there, and you're kind of doing the game plan, right? And I thought that was amazing. And then I remember seeing another clip of where was it? In their final games, and we were about maybe two more games left in the season, and you said, "Hey, let's not celebrate yet. We haven't won." And I remember once that final game came in, it was like all celebration, and it was just an amazing feeling, I bet. So again, congratulations to you, congratulations to the basketball team, all the students in there. This is an amazing thing that happened in your high school career. Never forget. Always come back and say, hey, you know what? Go into that big gym, and you're going to see 2021 there. That's going to be your own little plaque there on the big gym, right? So I always thought that was amazing, and now we're going to get to add another year on that. So a big congratulations. Thank you so much for all the support that you do, Coach Ware, for our students. And your work does not go unnoticed. Again, thank you, and I'm glad that we were able to recognize you.
Thank you, Councilmember
Thank you so
Chavez.
much for those
And
kind words.
go ahead, Coach. Go ahead. Sorry about that. I think
I
there's
just
a.
wanted to say thank you. I mean, seeing Georgel here on the, on the council, having him be my ex-student, that it reaffirms why I do what I do. To see him, and the way he represents the city, the way he represents himself, uh, this makes all the work worth it. And so thank you guys very much once again.
Let
Awesome.
me put it to you this way, Coach. Me as a student, my colleagues, all of us that we all went to Bell Gardens High School, none of us would be here if it wasn't for the support of teachers like you, coaches like you. So a big thank you to you, and a big thank you to all teachers at our Bell Gardens High School for being truly inspirations and for getting us to be here, right? Because that's all that support is what has led us to become who we are today. So a huge, huge thank you.
Anyone else have any comments for our team before we move on to the next?
Yes, Mayor, may I? I just want to thank Coach Ware for being on here tonight and also the students. Although we can't see your faces, we do appreciate you being here. I know this is not the traditional recognition. Maybe once we reopen, we can get all of you to City Hall to take a nice picture with City Council to continue this momentum and also invite us to your games. I think I speak for the majority of us. We would love to be there next year and keep this momentum going. And you're doing great things for the city of Bell Gardens, putting our name out there for the right reason. So students continue with that triumph and cheers to you. And hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Councilmember Cortez. Anyone else? Okay. Well, I just want to ask you for a favor, Coach. I just want to make sure that you come back next year with the same news and a new group of players. So,
That's the plan. That's the plan.
all right, great.
Just getting started. Just getting started.
Awesome. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, and up next is a certificate of recognition that's being presented to one of our residents, Celino Antonio Bonilla, who just turned 100 years old. So I wanted to make sure that I recognized them. And here's a beautiful certificate that we have for him. I went to go see him during his birthday. He's doing great. And it just always brings a smile to my face to see our elderly being loved by their families the way that Celino Antonio Bonilla was when I was there. I believe they are also very involved in the community. They're part of our neighborhood watch program. So thank you for inviting me to the birthday party. I I can't tell you how important it is for you guys to take care of your elders and show them the love that they deserve. And hopefully, when we get there, someone will love us just the same way, right? So let me go ahead and read this very quickly. The Bell Garden City Council hereby honors you for turning 100 years old. It's an incredible milestone and event to celebrate. We hope your birthday celebration was filled with lots of love, great memories, and laughter. Happy 100th birthday, Celino, from the council and the city of Bell Gardens. And I want to encourage our council that I don't know too many 100-year-olds, but if you do and their birthdays are coming up, please do let me know because we want to make sure that we acknowledge them and we celebrate them. And last but certainly not least, I do have a recognition here for Enrique Vega, but rather than me just reading this certificate, I'm gonna go ahead and hand it over to our chief of police so that he can fill you in on why we're recognizing Enrique today.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity. It's not very often when you come into work and you read something that inspires you and makes you realize we already know we're very fortunate to work in this community, but when things like this happen, it even just reinforces that even more. So when I came into work on Tuesday, fairly early in the morning, there was a call that went out regarding, I'm sorry, Tuesday the 8th, so last Tuesday. There was a call that came in regarding a naked male who was obviously agitated and deranged, and he was wandering through some neighborhoods. Mr. Vega heard the commotion out front, was concerned for his family, so he stepped out front and then observed the individual. The individual began walking, and Mr. Vega immediately called the police and just kind of monitored the individual as he headed towards Bellegarde Ford Park. Mr. Vega became concerned because he knew that there were kids and families and construction going on, and he could tell clearly that the individual was agitated. He followed from a distance just to direct the police in to where the individual was, and as he witnessed this individual walking past some park goers and some construction workers, he saw the individual attempt to assault somebody. And at that point in time, Mr. Vega started to increase his pace, trying to catch up to hopefully prevent this individual from injuring anybody or attacking anybody else in the park. Unfortunately, prior to Mr. Vega getting there, this individual began assaulting one of the local construction workers there in the park, and to the point where he was on top of the individual and striking him. Mr. Vega, without fear of his own or caution for his own safety, attempted to separate the individuals and then cause a distraction and keep them separated until the police got there. However, the individual continued to be combative, and Mr. Vega humanely took the individual down to the ground and held him on the ground until law enforcement could get there, until our officers could get there. Unfortunately, once our officers got there, the individual continued to fight. Mr. Vega did the right thing. He stepped back, let the officers do their job. But in watching the video for this unfortunate incident, you can hear Mr. Vega asking the officers if they needed help, or asking the lone officer on scene who was in a pretty good battle or struggle with the individual if he needed help. And prior to probably Mr. Vega having to step in, other officers arrived on scene. We've seen time and time again where officers are getting assaulted, and community members in other areas or other states either too busy to get their phone out to get their 15 minutes of fame, or to cheer on, unfortunately, the individual assaulting the officers. Mr. Vega was completely professional and quite heroic in the manner in which he took the individual down, not to injure him. The individual was already bloody and naked and sweaty, but Mr. Vega, without fear, stepped in and did what needed to be done to protect the rest of the park goers, and then to stand by and assist the officers if needed. So when I read that report, I reached out to my sergeant and I asked him a little bit about Mr. Vega, and a lot of times after that happens, the individuals will leave and we won't know who they are. They won't stick around to provide a witness statement. Mr. Vega stuck around the entire time. Just can't say enough about it, and the confidence it provided with an officer who's struggling to have somebody there who's willing to step in if need be. So from myself to you, Mr. Vega, thank you very much. It's one of the toughest things about my job now is worrying about our officers, and thankfully for the community and our officer, you were there that day. So all right, so let me read this to you. The City of Bell Garden Certificate of Recognition presented to Enrique Vega. The Bell Garden City Council hereby honors you for your heroic effort and determination to keep the community safe. Your quick instinct and willingness to act are greatly appreciated. Thank you for showing courage, bravery when most needed. We wish you much success in everything you set yourself to do. And I think we need to get some signatures on that. But
Yeah, I'll go ahead and sign it as soon as we can. Yeah, you guys want to come over here? I think it's we can actually come out on the chief. The chief has a wide angle camera, so we can just kind of gather there. It'll come out on the screen. So
Yes, but before we do take a picture, I do want to say some words, Mr. Vega. I think, and the chief mentioned it. We often live in a very selfish world where instead of helping someone else, we just stand there and we record, or we stand there and we observe. But you did quite the opposite. You made sure your family was safe. You put yourself at risk not once, but numerous times during this incident. And then you aided one of our officers, which is commendable. And as the chief mentioned, this individual was fully unclothed. He had blood. And given the current pandemic that we're in, a lot of us would have thought maybe twice, three times before getting near another individual. But you saw the need, you saw, this other worker that was in danger, and you put yourself in the middle of that. And you put yourself also in the middle of our officer and this person. You aided our officer. So I think your actions are truly commendable. And the fact that you didn't stop to think about yourself. And I think not very many of us are capable of doing that. We sit there and analyze all the risks and everything that is involved with that. And Chief, I want to thank you for bringing this recognition forward because we need to recognize our residents that are doing something for our community. It's not just council that does for our community, but it's also our resident with simple actions like these. So I do want to give you again just another big round of applause. And thank you so much for what you do.
So before we go and take a quick picture, I want to make sure that everyone has their comments if they want to say something. Okay. Well, I just want to say again, what an incredible act of courage and bravery. And I also want to warn everyone to not try to be a hero. I mean, I'm looking at Mr. Vega here, and he works out. Okay, so he's equipped for the job, luckily. But yeah, we're very thankful for you stepping up and protecting not only the worker, but also working with our police and aiding them. So thank you, Mr. Vega. And we'll go ahead and get together for a picture.
I don't want to be in trouble, but if I get in trouble, I'm hoping you're around. It's a pleasure to meet you. But other time, thank you so much.
Mr. Vega wasn't too keen on coming in today either, but we convinced him.
that concludes our presentations for today. So now we are moving to public participation on agenda items only. Um, we will now move to the first item on the agenda. City Clerk, are there any speakers?
Yes, Mayor, we have 12 speakers. The first one is Julia Aguilar. I hope I pronounced this correctly. Jerez. Okay. Let me go ahead and put the timer on. Hello, my name is Julia Aguilar Jerez, and I have been a Bell Gardens resident for the past 26 years. I am writing to demand that revisions be made to the 21-22 proposed city budget. Currently, the police department accounts for 44% of the budget and has increased since last year. Please do not approve of this budget. Continuing to allocate the majority of our funds towards the police has not and will not make our city progress. Our budget needs to prioritize the following with consistent and significant funding: mental health support through high quality, free, low-cost mental health care and substance abuse treatments, education through enriching and free youth development programming, job training, and investing in our students, continuing with higher education so our youth can better serve our community with the knowledge that they learn in and outside of our city, and access to technology by investing in our public spaces like libraries and community centers with new computers, phones, and citywide Wi-Fi in a safe and modern space. The people of Val Gardens deserve a better budget with funds allocated to resources that will directly impact the community. The police department can no longer be the city's largest expenditure. Cut the police, not our services. Julia Aguilar Jerez. And the next one is from Laura Cortez. Good morning. Please accept and read the following public comments into record for proposed budget item number 14. My name is Laura and I live in BG. At last year's budget, this council received the highest turnout it has in decades for the public comment for the public comment. The majority of those comments supported defunding the police. This year, the police represent 44% of the department expenditures, the highest of any department. I do not support that idea, the idea that we need surveillance and need outsiders to keep our communities safe. I most definitely do not support the police department receiving the largest budget of all departments. Where is the city council's commitment to listening and implementing what the community wants? You have heard from the community that we need to defund police and reallocate those resources to community services. I ask this council to remove the two additional positions and two new vehicles budgeted for BGPD, as well as eliminate the salary for the neighborhood watch. We need to remove the mindset of hiring someone not from our community to coordinate surveillance and actually create a strong community. The next one is from Brian Alvarez. My name is Brian Alvarez, and I am a Bell Gardens resident. I am writing to demand that revisions be made to the 21-22 proposed city budget. Currently, the police department accounts for 44% of the budget and has increased since last year. This is unacceptable. Our community has been one of the most affected by the global pandemic, and we need your support. The city's budget must reflect the needs of your constituents, not your policing. Please do not approve this budget. Our budget needs to prioritize affordable housing and social services that are dedicated to the undocumented and people of color that live in this city. I urge you to be a leader by reprioritizing your allocation of funds in order to truly provide a better quality of life for your community. Personnel reductions from the police department and creation of services to help your residents and small business owners and will better benefit our community while also reducing crime and increasing safety. The police department can no longer be the city's largest expenditure. Cut the police, not our services. Best, Brian Alvarez. And the next one is from Ruth Aguilar. Hello, my name is Ruth Aguilar, and I am a Bell Gardens resident. Last year, I was also part of the group urging City Council to reallocate the funds from the BGPD to other areas of our community and could use it more. I must say I am greatly disappointed that I have to do the same for this coming fiscal year. I am writing to demand that revisions be made to the 21-22 proposed city budget. Currently, the police department accounts for 44% of the budget and has increased since last year. This is unacceptable. Our community has been one of the most affected by the global pandemic, and we need your support. The city's budget must reflect the needs of your constituents, not your policing. Please do not approve this budget. Our budget needs to prioritize items like rent control slash housing and mental health resources with consistent and significant funding. With the proper funding and commitment, these things would decrease crime more than police department ever will. I urge you to be a leader by reprioritizing your allocation of funds in order to truly provide a better quality of life for your community. Personnel reduction from the police department and creation of services to help your residents and small business owners will better benefit our community while also reducing crime and increasing safety. The police department can no longer be the city's largest expenditure. Cut the police, not our services. Once again, Ruth Acab Aguilar. And the next one is from Daniel Gonzalez. Hello, my name is Daniel Gonzalez, and I have lived in Bell Gardens my entire life. I am writing to express my disappointment with the proposed 21-22 city budget. I am demanding that changes be made to more accurately reflect the needs of our city. Currently, 44% of the budget is taken by the Bell Gardens Police Department. This is ludicrous percentage that advantages those policing the city over the actual residents of Bell Gardens. The city does not need more policing of our community members. We need services. Please do not approve this budget. Our budget needs to prioritize educational programming and resources with consistent and significant funding. Our residents, the people growing up within our beautiful city, deserve to be invested in. We have a duty to uplift our community members and give them the resources they need to survive, not a duty to police them and criminalize them. I urge you to be a leader by prioritizing your allocation of funds in order to provide a better quality of life for Bell Gardens residents. Personnel reduction from the police department and creation of services that benefit the community and small business owners will better benefit the community while also reducing crime and increasing safety. The police department can no longer be the city's largest expenditure. Cut the police, but not our services. Thank you, Daniel. And the next one is from Antonio Gonzalez. Hello, my name is Antonio Gonzalez, and I'm a Bell Gardens resident. I'm writing to express my dissatisfaction with the proposed 2021-2022 city budget. Although I understand the need for police department, it seems ludicrous to me that the vast majority of the city budget is allocated to police. At 44% of the budget, it is over 3 times as much as the next highest expenditure of public works. It is 11 times as much as community development. I believe that a government must allocate resources where they will promote the most good for its citizens. Having followed the Bell Gardens Police Department Instagram page, it seems that most successes to the department's name involve petty crimes such as restricting fireworks or removing homeless encampments. I believe there are better uses for the majority of Bell Gardens money. Improving the parking situation on many streets is a priority for many residents. The development of mental health programs or rent control could also be of use in helping alleviate the homeless problem. Programs such as these can promote real long lasting changes for the better. The city of Bell Gardens is a tiny city. Even just a portion of the police department budget could be used to really benefit a large percentage of the city's populace. I ask that you do not approve the proposed budget and review the allocation of resources where they can do the most good. Sincerely, Antonio Gonzalez. The next one is from Darlene. Darlene Escobedo. My name is Darlene Escobedo, and I am a member of the Bell Gardens community. I am writing to demand revisions be made to the 21-22 budget proposal. It is disconcerting to see the proportion of the budget being allocated to policing. The pandemic has made clear that now more than ever, the community is in need of accessible services. The budget should be prioritizing essential needs by allocating funds towards affordable housing as well as mental health programs. The proposal in its current i- iteration seems to disregard that at any time many families are experiencing crisis, not only economically, but also socially. Lastly, providing an emphasis on services will enable the city to begin addressing any long-term impacts the pandemic has had on the community that remain to be seen. Based on my experience living in Bell Gardens for 25 years, I do not see increasing policing or prioritizing funding the police department as a viable solution to this challenge. Please consider making much needed revisions. Thank you for your time. Darlene. And the next one is from Carla Aguilar Perez. Oh, thank you. Hello, I am writing to demand that revisions to be made to the 21-22 proposed city budget. It is disappointing to learn that the police department accounts for 44% of the budget and has increased since last year. It is especially disappointing since we have a long year ahead of us in terms of long-term recovery as California lifts its business and travel restrictions. I'm asking that the council does not approve of this budget and instead reorganizes the city's priorities to better support its businesses and residents. Some of that funding should be reallocated to public works, community development, and recreation to help a larger part of the neighborhood. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If larger police forces have not been able to deal with the issues around the city up to this point, we need to try something new and use our money to fund other solutions. While some council members are especially resistant to ideas like defunding, as a lifelong resident of BG, I see it as a refunding our community and making sure we provide for all our residents. I urge you to be leaders by reprioritizing the allocation of funds in order to truly provide a better quality of life for your community. Best, Carla Aguilar Perez. And then this one is from James Winston. Council members, I would like to see another draft of the budget proposal for the 2021-22 fiscal year that reflects the needs of the community and not that of the police department. It is disappointing to see the length to which the city goes to further fund the police department. It truly shows whose interests really matter to you all. We are still in times of COVID, and instead of funding services that could really benefit the city, you would rather shove public funds into two new vehicles, 140K, and two added positions, 220K, for salaries. A lot of the money could be better spent if the funds were directed to mental health counselors, especially in this time when folks are undergoing stress due to COVID. Shifting funds to education, housing, recreation, more policing does not reduce crime. Investing into the citizens of the community does. Do the right thing and reallocate funds from the PD into those whose the funds truly belong to. The people have the power to elect you into your seat, and we also have the power to get you off of it. And then the next one is from Alex Gonzalez Garcia. Hello, my name is Alex Gonzalez Garcia, and I have lived in Bell Gardens my entire life. I'm writing to express my disappointment with the proposed 21-22 city budget. I am demanding that the changes be made to more accurately reflect the needs of our city. Currently, 44% of the budget is taken by the Bell Gardens Police Department. This is ludicrous percentage that advantages those policing the city over the actual residents of Bell Gardens. The city does not need more policing of our community members. We need services. Please do not approve this budget. Our budget needs to prioritize educational programming and resources with consistent and significant funding. Our residents, the people growing up within our beautiful city, deserve to be invested in. We have a duty to uplift our community members and give them the resources they need to survive, not a duty to police them and criminalize them. I urge you to be a leader by reprioritizing your allocation of funds in order to provide a better quality of life for Bell Gardens residents. Personnel reduction from the police department and creation of services that benefit the community and small business owners will better benefit the community while also reducing crime and increasing safety. The police department can no longer be the city's largest expenditure. Cut the police, not our services. Thank you. Alex Gonzalez Garcia. And the next one is from Jocelyn Del Real. Hello, this is my comment for item number 14 regarding the proposed city budget. My name is Jocelyn and I'm a resident of the city of Bell Gardens. I am reaching out once again to urge the council to not approve the proposed city budget and reevaluate the allocation of resources currently in place. I am not the first to point out the disparity in the amount of money the city gives to the police department. But I want to emphasize that we are tired of this pattern being repeated. It is shameful that 44% of all of the funds go to the department while the recreation department is at 13% and community services at 4%. These these community and recreation departments have sustained a lot of relief efforts for the city during COVID and continue to do so. Services like rental relief assistant, utility relief assistant, food distributions, vaccine clinics, and so on. These are the services that are uplifting our community during such a difficult time and what we should be funding more, not the police. Our city dollars need to go back to the people. I recall there was a survey done to see where the community saw priorities, and I hope you are factoring that and can also consider doing a community participatory budget process. I leave you with a quote from Jillian Johnson that highly resonates today, and that's the safest communities don't have the most cops. They have the most resources. And the final one, Mayor, if you will read it, it's in Spanish.
Sure, I'm going to go ahead and read this. It's in Spanish. It was submitted by Norma Flores. And there's also a name here. It says, okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read it. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Buenas tardes a todos los miembros del consejo. Mi nombre es Norma Flores y quiero opinar sobre el presupuesto de la señora Travis del 140,000 al año. Con ese dinero se puede actualizar el programa de Neighborhood Watch y modificándolo de que se puede gastar menos dinero. Esto se tiene que discutir porque es mucho dinero pagado para solo una persona. Yo fui miembro de este programa y créanme, se necesita cambiar definitivamente y más que todo actualizarlo con tecnología nueva y nuevas propuestas, tanto con ustedes y los residentes. Espero que tomen la mejor opción para el bien de nuestra ciudad. Necesitamos más recursos y tenemos que manejar bien el dinero. Gracias por hacer el mejor trabajo para Bell Gardens. And that concludes the public comment. City Manager, would you please give your report?
Thank you, Mayor Barsana. I just want to make a note of a couple items that just occurred and a few things that are coming up. 2 Saturdays ago, we had another one of the large food distributions, 2,000 meals for families. We've got cooling centers that are cooling center is going to be open as summer's starting early this year. So scheduled to be open tomorrow. The temperatures are supposed to get up into the 90s. We started doing cooling centers last year. They occur at the Community Family Service Center, and they're there from noon to 6 p.m. So oftentimes residents seem to choose to be in the park under the trees, but when it gets to extreme heat, we've got a space available for them. Also, just wanted to note this Saturday is a busy Saturday. It's a yard sale weekend. That's the second one that we've had since COVID. So there may be some good deals out there. There's another family food distribution that the city is doing. This is one of our monthly ones. There's also a used oil and filter exchange event at the AutoZone, and there's also a tenants' rights workshop as well. Um, I also just wanted to make a note when I look at this council meeting. They're usually big ticket items on any given council meeting, but I just want to make a comment if you, and I'll be quick as I say this, but this council meeting has a lot of items that are very beneficial to the residents of the city. And it's through hard work from resident stakeholders, the council, and staff as well. So just want to make note, there's second reading of a residential parking district. That's on this agenda. It's offer a solution for neighborhood parking issues. There's another 4 speed humps that are being installed for improved traffic safety on another street. There's crossing guard services being hopefully be approved by the council as part of this agenda as well for school children when they return after summer. Um, a resolution for term limits to affect good governance of the city. Resolution for a commemorative flag policy, including an LGBTQ plus flag. And also the first aquatic center program run in the city by the city in 4 years. And then on top of that, we've got a balanced, better than balanced budget that's coming to the council. So I just want to make a note, a lot of big ticket items that I think are very beneficial to the residents. And just want to thank everybody for their hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager, for your report. And now moving on to consent calendar items 1 through 10. Does any member of the City Council wish to pull an item for separate discussion? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? I will go ahead and move to approve items 1 through 10. Can I have a second? Second by Councilmember Cortez, and I'll take it to a roll call. Actually, we're gonna give it a minute. I think someone is not in the room. They're heading back in just a quick second. We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Pulido.
Yes.
Yes for Pulido. Councilmember Flores.
Yes.
Yes for Councilmember Flores. Councilmember Cortez.
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Chavez.
Yes.
Thank you, and that's yes for myself. So the consent calendar is approved unanimously. And now moving on to discussion items 11 through 14. City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 11?
Thanks again, Mayor Barsena. This item is a resolution that calls for general municipal election to be held to enact term limits for the city council. Back in January and again in March, There were presentation done to the council in relation to term limits, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the city clerk. We believe that this resolution that's being presented to you follows the direction that was given by the council previously.
Thank you, City Manager. This item is a resolution calling for the holding of a general municipal election to be held November 8th, 2022, to submit to the Bell Gardens voters a question to enact term limits. So I've got a PowerPoint before you. Next page. So going back to the Bell Gardens City Council, the Bell Gardens City Council is governed by five members elected city council and have a staggered elections. Members of the city council are elected in November of even number years and serve 4-year terms. Currently, the city of Bell Gardens City Council does not limit the number of terms and an individual may serve on the city council. Next. So on September 14th, 2020, City Council received a brief overview on City Council term limits. Then on January 25th, 2021, City Council discussed City Council term limits and directed staff to bring this item back to Council to discuss the specifications at a future meeting for a 3-4-year term limit. And on March 8th, 2021, City Council discussed the option further and unanimously voted to approve a 3-4-year term limit for council members with a lifetime ban to be placed on the ballot at the next regularly scheduled election. Next. So terms will include, there'll be a maximum of 12 years. Elected officials will be termed out for life after they have been elected or appointed 3 times. Partial term of office, any person who was either appointed or elected will be considered to have served a full 4-year term, even if they serve a partial term of office as a member of the city council for any portion of a term. Additionally, any member who resigns or is removed from office during a term will also be deemed to have served a full term. Can be elected at any point in their life, can successfully be elected 1 term, then wait a couple of years and then run again. So it's the ban, the lifetime ban is a maximum of 12 years. Next. So with that, we brought back resolutions and an ordinance to be introduced. The resolution is calling for the holding of the election, requesting consolidation to Los Angeles County general election, requesting the Board of Supervisors authority, setting priorities for filing written arguments and rebuttals regarding the measure, and then directing the city attorney to prepare an impartial analysis. The ordinance is before you tonight, and it's an introduction, adding section 2.04.25 to chapter 2.04 of the Title II of the Bell Gardens Municipal Code, establishing city council terms of not more than 12 years or 3 4-year terms with a lifetime ban subject to voter approval. Next. So the fiscal impact, the cost of the election is that's for 3 council seats and 1 measure is $63,165.92. Next. So that pretty much sums it up. I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Do any of my colleagues have questions or comments? I know that we've seen this come to us a couple of times already. We've done our analysis, but if there's anything additional to discuss, please. Okay, so then I will go ahead and motion to follow staff's recommendation. City Attorney, is there a need to read the actual recommendation here in full?
Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Mayor, I think if you move staff's recommendation, I think that covers what we
Okay,
need.
great. So may I have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Cortez. I'll take it to a roll call. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Cortez?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Flores?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pulido?
Yes.
And yes for myself, so motion carries unanimously. And very quickly, I just want to thank staff for working so hard on this. This is one of the goals that we had from when we ran for council. When I say we, I mean Alejandra and also Lisette, Councilmember Cortez and Councilmember Flores. And we're very happy that it's actually coming to a reality now. And I want to thank you guys again for all the efforts.
Hold on, before you let go of that, I always say when we complete a campaign promise, promise completed.
Thank you. Okay, and moving on to our next item, which is item number 12. City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 12?
Thanks again, Mayor Barcena. So this item does two things. One, it established a resolution that creates a commemorative flag policy. And it also authorizes an annual display of the Pride flag at City Hall to commemorate LGBTQ plus Pride Month. I'll turn over to the city clerk to do a presentation on some of the specifics. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. So I did a presentation on the commemorative flag policy and display of the pride flag. Next. Currently, the City of Bell Gardens does not have a flag policy. Tonight, before you are two resolutions. One is approving a resolution to adopt a flag policy. And the second one is to approve a resolution to display the pride flag during the month of June, June 1st through the 30th. Next. So resolution number 2021-49 establishes a commemorative flag policy. A council member may at any time during the year suggest the display of a commemorative flag that meets the criteria of this policy. Consideration would be a two-step process where on an agenda the council considers the request, and if supported by a motion approved by a majority of the council members, staff would return with a formal resolution authorizing display of a commemorative flag. A majority of the council must vote affirmatively for such resolution. The city will not display a commemorative flag based on a request from a third party, nor will the city use its flagpoles to sponsor the expression of a third party. Commemorative flags will be displayed on the first business day following the beginning of the month and removed on the first business day following the end of the month. City Council may, as part of the resolution, authorize displaying of a flag, adjust the duration. Next. Resolution number 2021-50 authorizes the annual display of the pride flag at City Hall. Commemorate lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, the LGBTQ plus Pride Month. Currently, the LGBTQ plus Pride Month is celebrated each year on the month of June. And this honors the 1969 Stonewall riots in Manhattan. The purpose of the commemorative month is to recognize the impact that lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals have had on history locally, nationally, and internationally. The pride flag shall be displayed at City Hall annually from June 1st through June 30th. Next. That concludes my report. If I'm available, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Okay, seeing none, I want to go ahead and ask for a motion. Would anyone like to make a motion? If not, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution that establishes an annual commemoration of LGBTQ plus by putting up a flag.
I'll go ahead and second your motion, Mayor.
Okay, that's a second by Councilmember Flores, and I'll take it to roll call. Council
Mayor
Member,
Barcena, quick
please.
question. I think it's two separate motions, correct? One is establishing an ordinance so we can put a flag, and then the second one is to put the LGBTQ flag for the month of June, correct? So we need two separate motions, or could we do it in just one?
I wrote it.
I- is that, we recommending to have both of those approved or just to pick one?
Yes, both
Both.
of them in one
Oh.
motion is how I wrote it up.
Okay,
Okay, sounds good. So the way the motion was, right?
the motion is to put it up and also to establish the,
Policy.
the ordinance.
Okay.
So that will be,
Resolution,
that will be my
policy.
motion. And do I have a second from Councilmember Flores still? Yes, thank you. And I'll take it to roll call now. Councilmember Chavez,
Absolutely.
thank you. Councilmember Cortez, thank you.
Yes.
Councilmember Flores,
Yes.
thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Pulido,
Yes.
thank you. And it's yes for myself. And I do want to make a quick comment here before we go on the recess to put up the flag outside of City Hall on the flagpole. I just want to thank, I want to thank our Mayor Pro Tem for being an advocate of LGBTQ plus and for really pushing for this. She's the one that contacted me initially and asked me if I would be supportive of having one of the flags up in the front, and I absolutely said yes. But I want to thank you for taking the initiative and showing that support for our members of the community from the LGBTQ plus. Really appreciate that. So now, since the flag policy has been approved, we will take a short recess and we will be called to raise the LGBTQ plus flag. So how many minutes do we need for the recess? 5 minutes? Okay, so we're gonna take a 5-minute recess. Hey, Roseanne. Thank you for getting us that flag. I believe you're the one that
Roseanne,
found it.
gracias por
No, was it Public
conseguir
Works?
la
Okay,
bandera. Ah, no, fue Obras Públicas,
thanks to our
pero
Public Works
bueno,
department.
gracias a Obras Públicas entonces.
So we're just getting ready to
Así que nos
come back
estamos
from break now,
preparando
waiting for our
para
staff
reanudar. Estamos esperando a
to get back
que
to their positions.
regrese el personal, vuelva a sus puestos.
I want to make a note to our technical team that I'm able to hear the translator in my audio channel here. Maybe we need to adjust some settings.
Samantha, would you mind saying something in the interpreter channel just to make sure we're not hearing you in the English?
All right, sounds like we're ready to get going here. So we're now reconvening from our break, and I'm calling the meeting to order and moving directly into item number 13. City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 13?
Thanks again, Mayor Barcena. This item is the approval of an aquatic program at Bell Gardens High School for summer 2021. So that's for this July. I'll let our Recreation Community Services Director get into more detail, but this is one that just I know I'm really excited about. I'm sure the council will be as well. There hasn't, like I said earlier, there hasn't been a swim program within the city of Bell Gardens run by the city in 4 or 5 summers. And I think this is a marked improvement over what we've been able to do while we're waiting for the new aquatic center to get built. So I'll turn it over to our director at this point. Go ahead, Roseanne.
About this opportunity. This is also giving us an opportunity to train several of the students that either have just graduated from Bell Gardens High School or are going to be seniors. They are all being certified in CPR, first aid, water safety instructor, and lifeguard. And so we're very busy trying to get everything ready and in place We have flyers ready to go as soon as we receive approval. But the emphasis again will be on the safety portion, which will be the Learn to Swim program. And we are also proposing that we give priority registration for at least 1 week prior to the start to Bell Gardens residents only. So we can make sure that our children are in the classes. It's my understanding that several of the community pools in neighboring communities are not going to operate this summer or are not prepared. And so therefore there will be quite a bit of interest, but we feel that giving our students, our children priority first. So that's where we're headed towards. But again, it's seeking approval. The proposed funding for this is incorporated into the 21-22 fiscal budget. And I'm available for any questions regarding the proposed program. Thank you.
Thank you, Roseanne. And I want to open it up to my colleagues to see if they have any questions or comments in regards to the aquatics program that's being proposed.
Rosanna, I just wanted to thank you for making sure that our constituents have somewhere not just to cool off, but to take classes, over the summer, as like you mentioned, our students, I mean, our people have been deprived of a swimming pool. Last year, we made an arrangement to have our constituents be driven out to Southgate Pool to be able to swim. Now, that may or may not have worked as successfully as we may have wanted to, but now we know that they might not even be operating, right? So here we are with the solution, to this year's problem and to the something that the community has been asking for. I'm all about building competitiveness and making sure that our students have resources and activities to do because we are an underprivileged community. And there's, I think, maybe like 5 pools in the entire city, which is unfortunate, but because of resources and being able to be flexible and imaginative like this, they will no longer have or feel that this year. So thank you so much to you and to our director over our principal, I think it's Principal Miranda, who has been able to work with you and everybody who's been helping you. I'm very happy that we're going to be able to give this to our constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Flores. Anyone else?
Mayor, may I?
Please go ahead.
Just to also echo what Councilmember Flores mentioned, Roseanne, this is a great opportunity for our community. And this is also in preparation of our pool next year. So it's exciting. And I do want to clarify that to that community. Just because we have this program happening at Bell Gardens High School, it doesn't mean the Bell Gardens pool is not coming. It is coming, but in preparation of that, that's where our amazing Parks and Rec department is doing this pre-work to make sure that we have lifeguards, to make sure that we already have an aquatics program. That way, when our pool opens next summer, we're ready with all of this. But it's also a great opportunity for our community this summer. And the best part is that we're hiring some of our own kids to be lifeguards, and we're teaching them some skills, and we're giving them this training, and it's just an added skill. And I think Mayor Barcena can attest to how much it changes the lives of kids to be able to be in aquatics programs, because he did it, and he was also a lifeguard, and he always talks about that. So that always resonates with me. So hearing that we're going to provide this opportunity once more to our community is very exciting. But just to reiterate, this is in preparation of our pool opening next summer. So hooray! That is all. Thank you, Roseanne.
Thank you, Councilmember Cortez. Anyone else? Okay, I'll go ahead and provide my comment. First of all, Roseanne, I want to give you props. I want to say job well done, because I'm sort of the aquatics person here, right? I've been doing aquatics all my life, and as Councilmember Cortez mentioned, uh, the reason why I'm here, arguably, is because I became a lifeguard, and then I worked for the city of Bell Gardens, and then I came up through the ranks and all that stuff. One of the biggest reasons why I decided to run for council is the fact that that resource was neglected to the point that it had to be shut down. And we've been so focused on trying to rebuild the new pool by securing funding and designing the pool in a way that doesn't cut any services that were already offered, that we almost forgot that there are other ways to provide that valuable life lesson of learning how to swim to our community, especially the young ones. And believe it or not, our wonderful director, Rosanna Danto, she took it upon herself to reach out to the Montebello Unified School District and really set up a way to still fulfill that mission of teaching our young residents how to swim. And I focus on the young residents, even though everyone's welcome to join the swim lessons, because there are a lot of deaths involved in disadvantaged communities like ours for the simple fact that we don't have the resources to teach our young children how to swim. So that results in tragedies all across the country. And that is one of the main reasons why I'm such an advocate for aquatics programs. And this was just such a wonderful surprise that we had someone on our staff that had the initiative and the means to get this done. So I want to commend you, Roseanne, and really thank you for getting this going. I'm very excited to be able to get an early start with this aquatics program, even though, as we said, this is not our pool, right? We're going to build an Olympic-sized pool. It is coming. But in order to make sure that we continue and get an early start delivering these lessons to our children, that's why we're doing this. So I'm very happy to be able to support this. And thank you again, Roseanne, for such a great job. Would anyone like to make any motions? And if not, I'll go ahead and motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll take it to a roll call. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Cortez?
Yes.
Thank you, Councilmember Flores.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Pulido.
Yes.
Thank you, and yes for myself, so motion carries. Moving on to item number 14, proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. City Manager, will you please announce the discussion item, please?
Thank you, Mayor Barsina. As you stated, this item is the to show the council and the public the proposed fiscal year 21-22 budget. So this serves as a somewhat of a workshop. It's a receive and file. The budget obviously is done on an annual basis. It should be adopted before June 30th. So we are going to take direction from council at this meeting and bring back a budget to be adopted, to hopefully be adopted by the council at the June 28th meeting. So this is your chance and the public's chance to see what things are looking like currently, to make adjustments if necessary. Before I turn it over to our Director of Administrative Services, Manuel Carrillo, I just want to say the first thing you always look at in a governmental budget is it balanced or not? If it's not, you look at why. Last year it wasn't balanced, and there was a good why. It was a COVID budget. It was a deficit budget of about $2.7 million. When you look at this year's budget, you look to see, is it balanced? And the answer is yes. It's balanced, and there is a surplus of about 2.3, $2.4 million. And I just want the council to keep in mind that we mentioned the Aquatic Center. When the Aquatic Center is built, and it should be up and running in the next fiscal year, which would be 22-23, we estimate we'll need, probably somewhere close to half of that surplus to run that pool or that aquatic center on an annual basis. So just to keep that in mind, please. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn over the presentation to Manuel. This is his first budget with the city, so glad to have him here.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Mayor Barca, Premier Pro Tem Pulido, Council Members Flores, Cortez, and Chavez, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present this evening the proposed budget for the 21-22 fiscal year. Can we please go to the next slide, please? So during the course of the 2021 fiscal year, the City of Bell Gardens experienced a significant obstacle as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. That, of course, being the bicycle casino's closure for a considerable portion of the 2021 year. Now, on a positive note, the casino is actually scheduled to be fully operational effective tomorrow, June 15th. Now, at mid-year projection, there was a surplus of 3.6 million was identified. However, After some updated guidance from the federal government and the state of California in regards to the American Recovery Plan Act, that figure has been updated to project a year-end surplus of at 6/30/21 of 1.36. Now, there are some new developments that have impacted the surplus projection. A change in the amount of the recovery funds to be distributed to the city of Bell Gardens. Initially, when the allocation was identified for the city of Bell Gardens, it was expected to receive 7.9 million paid entirely in fiscal year 2021. Now, since this bill's initial signing, the federal government and the state of California have provided further guidance as it relates to fund distribution to non-entitlement cities, which are cities with populations of 50,000 or less, such as the city of Bell Gardens. Now, the guidance has since been updated to reflect the state of California's role as the distributor of those funds on behalf of the federal government. Now, this resulted in a formula allocation change based on 2019 census population information that resulted in a higher distribution to the city of Bell Gardens than originally projected. The updated figure is now $10 million, which will be distributed to the city of Bell Gardens over a 2-year period, which would be 5 million this current fiscal year 2021, and the remaining 5 million coming in fiscal year 21-22. As a result, the city of Bell Gardens is projecting to have a surplus of 7.4 million in fiscal year 21-22. Next slide, please. Thank you. I'm sorry, number 4, please. Thank you. So, this slide shows the initial adopted 2021 budget, the mid-year projection, and the year-end projection as of June 30th, 2021. Next slide, please. Here we have a slide showing the projected fund balance at 6/30/21. As you can see, we started the fiscal year with a fund balance of 17,400,000. As a result of the expected 1.36 million surplus, we are projecting a fund balance at June 30th, 2021 of 18,760,000. Next slide, please. Next, please. Thank you. As previously indicated, a surplus of 7.4 million is projected for 21-22. Revenues are projected to come in at about 42,279,000, a portion of which, as we indicated, is the $5 million of the American Recovery Plan Act funds for the 21-22 fiscal year. Expenditures are projected to come in at about 34.8 million, which results in a projected surplus of 7.4 million. Next slide, please. Next slide. Here we have a breakdown of the projected revenue per the various revenue sources, as well as a side-by-side comparison between the 21-22 adopted amount versus the proposed amount for 21-22. As we can see, we are expecting a significant increase as it relates to the bicycle casino now that we are expecting them to be fully operational for the entire 21-22 fiscal year. The $5 million payment that relates to the American Recovery Plan Act for 21-22, as well as increases related to the Measure A add-on tax, which was passed last November. Next slide, please. Here we have a percentage breakdown of the top revenue sources for the city based on the previous slide's information. The top 6 revenue sources make up approximately 86% of the total revenue budget. Next slide, please. Here we have a graph that plots the historical casino revenue figures starting in fiscal year 2008-2009 through the projected fiscal year 21-22. As you can see, the significant decline started in the second half of fiscal year 19-20 and continued through 2020-2021 as a result of the COVID pandemic closures. Next slide, please. Next, please. Here we have an expenditure breakdown for fiscal year 21-22 by expenditure type. As we can see, the most significant component of the expenditure budget are personnel and contractual services, which make up approximately 89% of the overall expenditure budget. Next slide, please. Here we have a slide that shows the various subcategories that exist within personnel. Most noticeably, we are projecting increases in salaries, CalPERS retirement contributions, as well as part-time salaries. Next slide, please. Here we have a breakdown of full-time positions by department. In fiscal year 21-22, the City of Bell Gardens will have 145 full-time funded positions. In a bit, we'll go over some of the specifics of those changes. Next slide, please. Here we have a breakdown by department of the proposed overtime budget for fiscal year 21-22. There is a projected decrease in overtime compared to the 2021 year. Next slide, please. Now here we have a listing of the proposed added positions as well as one reclassification for fiscal year 21-22. And under the police department, we are proposing adding back one police officer from the 3 that were unfunded in the previous fiscal year, along with the jail supervisor. Under the city clerk's office, we are looking to add a clerk typist. In finance and administration, we are proposing adding a human resources technician. In recreation and community services, we're looking to add a recreation supervisor, a recreation coordinator, and 2 clerk typists to meet the program needs. In community development, we're looking to add a code enforcement building inspector, which will focus on Thursday to Sunday operations. And lastly, the community development department is looking to reclassify the current business license technician position to be a business license / building permit technician to reflect the dual nature of the position itself. These proposed changes will result in a personnel cost increase of about $681,000 in the 21-22 fiscal year. Next slide, please. Here we have an overview of contractual services, which we project to come in at around $8.4 million and consists of approximately 24% of the expenditure budget. Now, contractual services include liability insurance, tree and landscape services, warranties and subscriptions, professional services, utilities, amongst others. For fiscal year 21-22, some of the most significant expenditures in this category include recreation department operations and community services programming, landscape services, and city engineering, as well as city engineering, PD contractual services, as well as an increase to the city's general liability and IT costs. Next slide, please. Here we have an overview of the department supplies, which we project to come in at about $838,000. This area is projected to increase about $250,000 from the previous fiscal year. Next slide, please. Here we have an overview of capital outlays, which is expected to come in at about $1.2 million. Now, this consists of expenditures to acquire or improve long-term assets, such as vehicles, equipment, furniture, IT hardware and software, and facility improvements. In fiscal year 21-22, some of the more significant increases in this area will be IT infrastructure investments, PD server software upgrades, as well as vehicle purchases. Next slide, please. As mentioned in the previous slide, vehicle replacement is a significant component of the capital outlays budget for 21-22. In total, the city is looking to replace 13 vehicles, the majority of which are no longer operationally functional or in very poor condition. This table shows the vehicles to be replaced, along with the proposed replacement by the respective department. Next slide, please. Here we have an overview of transfers to other funds. And of course, this includes, at the time being, we're projecting it to be about $1.6 million for the year. And the more significant items in this area include the $500,000 increase to transfers to capital replacement funds, as well as the increased cost for retiree health care benefits. Next slide, please. And here we have an overview of the debt services expenditures. And of course, these are principal and interest payments for bonds and loans received by the city. The total debt service budget is $604,000. This consists of $418,000 in lease debt payments, as well as $186,000 for energy savings lease purchase agreement payments for the fiscal year. And just as a snapshot, at June 30th, 2020, these are the primary debt items that the city has. Of course, the primary ones being the net pension liability, as well as retiree health liabilities for the city. Next slide, please. Next, please. Now, here we have a pie chart that provides a visual breakdown of the city expenditures by department. The top being police, public works, recreation, finance, HR, and risk management, as well as community development. Next slide, please. Here we have a continuation of the previous slide, an overall breakdown of the expenditures by department and its respective percentage of the overall general fund expenditure budget.
Can I ask you a quick question? Does that include personnel?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Next slide, please. Next one, please. So the following two slides provide a listing of the city's capital improvement projects, which are, of course, major improvements to city facilities and infrastructure. For fiscal year 21-22, the appropriated capital project work plan programmed is for 10.5 million, and the remaining 33.7 is carried over from fiscal year 2021. In accordance with city purchasing policy, each project over 10,000 will be brought before City Council for approval. Next slide. And that's the overall capital improvement project listing. Next slide, please.
Quick question.
Yes, of course.
Hi there. I noticed that the budget that was proposed during the 3-day period, 72 hours, on the website, I think it's a different slideshow.
It is. I'm sorry. It is different because there were like last minute changes up until the last minute or so. So unfortunately, council members, these figures will change quite a bit over the course of several days. So it is slightly different than what the original one was submitted. That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just curious about that. I think in the expenditures by department, where it shows a little pie chart, I think it had different percentages for a couple of the departments. Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, that is correct. It has been updated in the last couple of days or so.
Thank you.
No problem.
Good. And Manuel, I think just to give the council and the public some confidence at this point, you know, as Manuel mentioned, we had about a $2 million change on the revenue side that just came up last Monday. But any changes other than those that are directed by council at this point would either be very minimal and we'd call them out for the next meeting or non-existent at all.
And we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So here we have an overview of all 34 city funds and the overall budget of 61.7 million, consisting of course, general fund, special revenue funds, capital project funds, enterprise funds, which include water and golf, and of course, the successor agency funds. Next slide, please. And one final item, one slide here is to provide some information on the projected utility deficit for 21-22.
Manuel, if you can stall on that. The reason that we call this one out, council, is there have been items that we've been looking at over the last 24 to 30 months regarding fiscal sustainability of the city. There were a number of items. The water utility fund rates have been one of those items. That item's anticipated to come back to council in about a month. And we're just calling this out to show that currently we've still got the deficit in the water fund. I think you all are very aware of our water situation in that. So we'll be bringing an item again in about a month, but we're calling this out specifically just to show that the deficit still exists this year.
And to conclude, I'd like to thank our accounting manager, Remo Hansen, as well as our payroll analyst, Mary Ceballos, for their efforts of helping to put this information together, running multiple scenarios, and doing their due diligence to make sure that we got some very solid numbers here. I'd like to thank you very much for your time. I know it was quite lengthy, and if there's any questions, anything, any information we can provide or recommendations, please feel free to ask.
Thank you, Manuel, and thank you, Mike, for putting this together for us. Manuel and Michael, they're sort of the wizards when it comes to the budget, so we really appreciate them working in these difficult times to make make everything work by the numbers. So I'm going to open it up now to our colleagues, the council, to see if they have any questions or comments.
Mayor, may I? So I just have, well, I guess a comment. I want to thank our finance department, our city manager for putting all this thought and all this work into the budget. Budget is one of the most stressful portions of our job every single year. And last year specifically, budget gave us a big headache. Seeing when our casino was closed, trying to get it to reopen. We didn't think our financial situation at the end of this would be as good as it is now. So we are very grateful that the numbers came back a lot better than we expected, that we're getting more money returned to us from everything that we lost. So we're extremely grateful. But just one thing to note and to remember, and this was something that Councilmember Chavez and myself were discussing when we had our budget meetings, was that sometimes it's easy to forget that we just came out of, or we're coming out of a pandemic. So we do see like, oh, we're having a big surplus, we're having all this money coming into the city, and we have to remember that we have to that we had debt to cover from the past year where, you know, our casino was closed and our revenue wasn't coming in, because we didn't cut any services, and that we are extremely grateful for. We kept every single department open throughout the pandemic, which most cities did not. There were cities that laid off, for example, their Parks and Rec staff right off the bat on day one. We didn't have to do that, thanks to our directors, thanks to our city manager that found a lucrative way to keep our city up and running and open, and also just the work that they did behind the scenes to make sure that money kept flowing into the city despite our casino being closed. It was a complete effort. So none of our resources have been cut, and as a matter of fact, I want to say that we're the city that has offered the most resources throughout the pandemic. We did maybe about 7 to 8 massive food drives. We gave rental assistance, scholarships. We just had our competitive scholarship close. So those are just things to keep in mind. We're going to continue to provide for our community. And also in the midst of this whole pandemic, we acquired grants as a city. We began the plans. We hired the engineers for our pool. So our projects have kept rolling, but it wouldn't be without this team that we have here present. So I do want to thank everyone and just remind everyone that yes, it seems like the city has an inflow of cash, but that's only because we're recovering from a pandemic. So, you know, these numbers will look a little bit more normal next year. Right now we have like these crazy graphs where you know, the revenue from the casinos doubling, but it's just really because our casino was closed for 8, 9 months during the pandemic, and now thankfully it's going to be open tomorrow. So I just wanted to thank everyone for their effort during this past, I don't know how long it's been, but thank you.
Mayor Barson, if I may.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Cortez, and go ahead, Mr. Chavez.
I just want to, you know, I think echoing what Councilmember Cortez was mentioning, you know, and specifically, you know, the support that's came from the federal government during this time. I mean, that if that wouldn't have came in, I mean, what would we be doing, right? How much would we be talking about? So, you know, especially want to thank, you know, all of our legislators that continually to represent us and fight for us at the state and also at the federal level, because a lot of the support, I mean, I think it's what 10 million coming from the 10 million coming from the federal government. Initially, we thought it was going to be 7 million, but then due to the state getting a hold of that at the end, now we're getting 10 million. That is amazing. $10 million that we're getting from the state because of this grant, because of the CARES Act, right? The American Rescue Plan. That's phenomenal. So, you know, I sometimes think I'm like, what if, you know, and it came down to a couple states, 2 states, I think, Pennsylvania, and I think it was Arizona, I think, that Trump almost won. Like, if he would have won, like, you know, this probably wouldn't have came to us. So, you know, this first couple of months that Biden's been in, I mean, this is it. We got this money from the federal government. So really huge thanks to Democrats for taking over the Senate by a slim majority and passing this budget, passing this package for our communities.
Thank you, Councilmember Chavez, for your comments. Anyone else have any comments, questions? Okay, I'd like to just comment a bit on where we're at with the pandemic, and I want to thank Councilmember Cortez for pointing out that even though this looks like we're excelling with flying colors, which in part we are, we're still in the pandemic itself, and you know there are a lot of struggling families in our communities, And as you guys remember from last year, or you may or may not remember, but we actually took drastic action to prepare ourselves for what was coming, which was very uncertain at the time, and it called for that type of action. I would argue. Now things feel better, right? There's a more positive outlook, but at the same time, there are a lot of people out there that are concerned because of the eviction moratoriums that may be coming to an end, and a lot of other hardships that they might have experienced and have accumulated throughout the pandemic. So for that reason, I just want to make sure that people understand the seriousness of this decision that we're taking. I mean, we're not taking any decision today, but this is sort of the preview of what's being put on the table. And I want to ask the city manager, what what kind of process can we rely on from here until we approve this budget, as far as making any adjustments or making any suggestions, maybe improvements? Can you describe what the process will look like for the council?
Sure, Mayor Barcena. So at this point, the council has seen the budget presentation. A lot of there's discretion here to to move monies around to some degree, but I think generally speaking, if you delved into the very deepest levels of this budget, I think on average probably somewhere in the 95% range, the monies are being deployed on programs and into resources that the council generally individually would agree with. I'm sure there's some money spent in some areas that some council members may not want to see any money in certain areas, and or less money or more money. So I think at this point, what we normally look for is, did we miss anything? Is there direction from the council today where you see deficiencies, or you see resources that haven't been deployed into certain programs, or there's too much resource in certain programs. But beyond what we hear today, if there are individual council member comments that come in that show there's some numbers are wrong, which I don't think would be the case, or there's something that staff missed, we would obviously take that into consideration in revising the budget that comes back to council in 2 weeks. We would make a note of it, and normally, let's just say hypothetically there was an item of council. I'll use something egregious. Says council member says, I think we should spend $3 million more on program X of general fund money. What we would do is bring the budget, and then make an alternative, have an alternative that the council could vote on at that time. So there's plenty of room still for council to let us know what you think, give us some additional direction. Ideally, this venue today would be the most helpful because it's with all of the council, and it's a Brown Act meeting. But we can still make some adjustments beyond that. We'll be back on the 28th, and then we still have 2 days after that too, worst case scenario.
Thank you, Mike, for clarifying that. So as Mike mentioned, we do have time, and I want to encourage everyone to, if you haven't had a chance to really dive into the budget, we want to make sure that everything is sorted out as early as possible so that we can have a smooth transition to the next budget for next year. So those are my comments. Does anyone have any other comments?
I'd like to give direction, Mayor Barcena.
Okay, what is your motion?
Well, I first of all want to thank you, Manny. I know that this is your first year with the City of Bell Gardens putting this budget together, and I can't imagine a more difficult year to do this. And I think you've done a phenomenal job at it, and I'm really appreciative of you and your team, and as well, to our city manager, because I know that he's very involved in the numbers. But I just want to tell you guys a little story, because I feel like it's really essential that you guys know where I'm coming from before I give this direction. But before I do, I want to thank all the people that submitted their emails. I hear you, I see you, and I understand. But this is, I want you guys to know something. When I was about 17 to 18 years old, I essentially became homeless. Um, my family basically abandoned me, right? It was a traumatizing, it was difficult, it was overwhelming. Um, my friends weren't really my friends anymore. And it was all because they didn't like the person that I was with, right? It was a girl rather than a guy, or boy, I should say. And it was time for me to go to college and apply for FAFSA while still being a senior. And I didn't have access to my parents' W-2 or any of their information for that matter. So I couldn't apply to go to college, and I couldn't apply for financial assistance. It was really difficult. And everywhere I went, to try and get help, it was like me having to repeat my story over and over. And it's just kind of reliving what I was living through. And I hated it. And so finally, I found a place on Google at the time. It was all the way in West Hollywood. It was the only LGBTQ youth center available in LA County, and they were able to help me. They had shelter, they had, everything you can imagine. They had counselors, mentors. They took anybody as young as 12 years old, because kids are usually just kicked out of their homes sometimes for those reasons. And it had it not been for them, I would have never been able to get the documentation and get through that bureaucratic BS that was lined up for me to not be able to apply for FAFSA. And because of them, like I said, I was successful. But today we're looking at this budget and I don't see anything for them. I don't see a mental health solution. I don't see any investment into our community so that my story might seem unique up here of the five, but my story is not. It's the story of many people here in our city and in our surrounding areas. And in all of Southeast Los Angeles, there's nothing for our LGBT community. We just came from outside for waving a flag, but what does that do? What resources do we provide and how are we supporting them? So because I don't see anything and because I'm frustrated because it was my life, and though I'm happily married now, that would forever be who I am and who I, you know, see that was left and forgotten. And I don't want to use my position and not address that issue. So because of that, today I will be asking to defund the police department and absorb the position of a neighborhood watch program by about $150,000 and allocate that to the Parks and Recreation Department to build and create a position for mental health awareness for the LGBT community in a center dedicated for them. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you for that, and thank you for sharing such a personal story with the community. I think everyone has had a different trajectory in how they ended up where they are, and sometimes we learn a lot from each other's experiences. So, just for clarification, I know that that Councilmember Flores gave direction. It seems sort of like it's a motion. Can legal please provide guidance on how we may go about exploring this possibility? If it's something that maybe the council member can meet with the city manager and sort of dissect to a further degree, or if it's going to be presented as a motion today, please, if you can provide clarification, city attorney.
Mayor, members of the council, to the purpose of today's report is to get direction from the city council. And so I think the comments that were made by Councilwoman Flores and the directions that she's looking for would need a second and then some sort of direction to staff to make the changes that she's requesting. If there isn't support for what she's requesting, then the appropriate thing to do at this point, if there's no more questions, would be to receive and file the report.
Thank you for that. So we'll be taking that as a motion. It's a very specific motion in regards to where to defund and reallocate. So are there any seconds for that motion? Okay, seeing none, I would like to make a motion, and it's sort of along the same suggestion that I gave a little earlier. I'd like to make a motion to reach out to the council and set up a meeting individually to provide assistance with these any ideas that someone may have in regards to changes that they may want to do to the budget. I feel like we need to really allow for that opportunity to each one of our council members, and I don't mean just Councilmember Flores, I mean everyone right on the council, and sort of prepare ourselves for the following meeting so that we can have, if we do have any ideas, that could be a little bit more structured, a little bit more digestible, and perhaps there could be improvements done to the budget. So that'll be my motion. My motion is to check back with all the council and maybe set up individual meetings and provide assistance.
And Mayor, before we move on with your motion, I know that was a very specific motion, Councilwoman Flores. I support part of that motion, which is to allocate some funding with regards to our LGBTQ community or our youth in general. Whether that looks like hiring a professional or maybe adding that chair to our community service center, which I know our community service center at the end is going to entail bringing different professionals in one single location to provide resources for our community. I don't support where you want to get that funding from, but I do support bringing a resource, maybe looking for the funding from somewhere else in our budget or even working with our community recs department to make it a priority that there is a professional um, in that particular arena or field to support better support our LGBTQ. I know we do have the Latino Equality Alliance that is very active in our communities. Council member from the city of Huntington Park is part of that organization, and I know they've been doing outreach also along our communities. Just to clarify, although I do not support where that funding is coming from, I do support providing that specific resource for our youth or looking into partnering up maybe with the Latino Equality Alliance or a similar organization to provide that safe space for our youth. And I know we could bring charlas, we could bring different resources that the Latino Equality Alliance offers, and we could just do it home based.
Thank you so much for your support, Councilwoman Cortez. Everything you're saying is, music to my ears. However, the Latino Alliance is in East Los Angeles, more further out that way. So it is outside of the Southeast Los Angeles community, which I'm looking to cater to. And just for the record, for those if you're listening or not listening, I specifically chose this position to absorb because this is the second time that I bring it up. To me, the position is one that we can do without. I think the current salary right now is about $135,000 a year for a community development. I'm sorry, for a neighborhood watch director who does not live in our city. To me, if you do not live in our city, then you cannot survey our community. This is an outdated program. I've mentioned it to the chief, I've mentioned it to the city manager and to the community many times. The reason I choose this is because this is a direct position where we can remove and add so that it can directly hit our
Councilmember
youth.
Flores, I apologize for interrupting you, but I would like to check in with our legal counsel, just in regards to disclosing information about our employees and their
I'm
place
sorry,
of
it
residence.
wasn't about the employment, it was more about the position.
I believe there was a remark made about whether the employee lived or didn't live in the city of Bell Gardens. Just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect our employees and make sure that that we're not making ourselves
Okay.
opening up
Thank you
liabilities.
so much.
If you
I'll
can please
return to
fill us in
Yeah,
on
I
that.
think I think for now we're fine, Mayor, but I would caution the city council members that you don't want to personalize
That's fine.
some of the things that you're discussing and get too much into discussions about individual employees. So to the
Okay.
extent that you can just keep it focused on the
The
agenda item,
position.
that would be my
So this
recommendation. Yeah.
position, I feel that should be given to, or if not, be reimagined or, reconsider as far as how we can, better serve our community with residents of our community instead of otherwise. Anywho, so this is why I bring it up. This is the second time, and I'm doing it because I genuinely believe that there's so much money that is it's being spent or wasted on something that is unnecessary and could be done by many of the women who are currently serving as communities I'm sorry, neighborhood watch members, free of charge as volunteers, like many cities have. So because of the need of this program that I just mentioned about LGBTQ and having a youth center for them that will serve the Southeast, to me it's very important that we have that, and I thank you, Ms. Cortez, for supporting that program. But this is why I chose this specific position, and I just wanted that for the record. So wherever we get this money from, this is why I chose that.
Thank you for your comments, Councilmember Flores. And I think these comments and everything that we're discussing right now, it just shows that there's work to be done still, which is why I'm giving direction or making a motion to have the city manager conduct an outreach effort with the council to make sure that all these ideas are processed and you can provide the guidance that may be needed to either streamline these ideas or create the type of communication that could be productive. Sometimes when we get to council and we discuss everything that's fresh off of our minds right now, it might not be as productive. So I think some effort can go into figuring things out. I also heard that our council member Cortez has some ideas that may work. So I'm interested in finding out what that is and maybe have that be discussed in a better manner at our next meeting. But I think this is a great start to really get some productive brainstorming going for the budget. And so before I ask for a second, is there anything you would like to say, Councilmember Chavez?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Mayor Barcena. Can everyone listen to me? Can everybody hear me? Yes? You hear me? Oh, okay, awesome. So I like the suggestion that you're proposing, Mayor Barcena, in regards to us having private meetings with our city manager and whatnot to discuss potential ideas that we might have in brainstorming to bring to our city, I guess, to our next budget meeting. My only concern is before we move forward to that, I'm curious to know, we're all here, right? We're all in public, and we really can't discuss the budget, obviously, between amongst ourselves in a private meeting. And I'm just curious to know if each of my colleagues is satisfied with what's been proposed to us. Like, you know, um, I'm just curious to know if all of you are satisfied with what has been proposed so far. If you choose not to respond, I understand, but I'm curious.
Well, I'm responding. Obviously, based on what I said, I am not happy with it. So hopefully that what answers your question.
I was going to say, Councilmember Chavez, why don't you take the lead in answering that question?
No, well, that's why I'm bringing it up. I mean,
That's right, but take the lead whether you're satisfied or not, and then maybe we'll follow suit.
I'll say this, I think I do want to, to an extent applaud Councilmember Flores for sharing that story. I think it is a very personal story for someone to share that. It's a journey that she went through. Um, and it's something that I feel like not a lot of people know about. I certainly didn't know about it. So, I think we all have different backgrounds. We all come from different places, and we've all been through different experiences. But what I'm curious to know, as far as the rest of my colleagues, right? Mayor Barcena gave direction, so each of us meet with the city manager and maybe discuss some ideas that we have. Obviously, we had our briefings. I met with Councilmember Cortez, and we met with the city staff, and we discussed potential ideas that we had. Obviously, not in Brown Act violation, as so did some of my other colleagues. But I mean, this is an opportunity for all of us to kind of share something that we have, right? I think we meet one more time, which is the 28th, I think, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. The 28th, and then we have about 3 day or 4 day notice to actually get this fully fleshed out. So, I mean, I do have some ideas that I do want to propose to my colleagues, but I'm curious to know that before I move forward with these ideas, I know I've heard about the LGBTQ Center, which sounds like it's a phenomenal idea, and I'd be for it. I don't see why any of my colleagues would be against having an LGBTQ center in our own city or something along those lines. But I'm curious to know if that's it.
Councilmember Chavez, I'm going to go ahead and say that sometimes you could figure out really what someone else is thinking through their comments. So, as I mentioned, I think everyone has a lot of ideas. It seems like some of us have a lot of ideas, and that's why I want to make it create a process for those ideas to be put together in a way that is more productive than us just kind of shooting out like these ideas that haven't really been prepared for us to consume from each other, right, at the meeting. So that's why I'm suggesting that the city manager meets with us so that we can actually have something ready, so it could be a little bit more professional, a little bit more streamlined for the following meeting. But I would say Council Member Cortez seems to have some ideas. Definitely ideas coming from Council Member Flores. I for sure have ideas that I would like to discuss with the city manager. However, I do think that the proposed budget is a great starting point, and I think they've done an amazing job. And that is the reason why I'm suggesting that action to be taken. And I'm sure Mayor Pro Tem may also have some ideas, maybe some improvements. So this is a process that we're embarking on, but I appreciate your sense of wanting to collaborate here during the meeting, but sometimes it might just kind of make the whole process longer and a little bit shaky. So that's the only reason why I wouldn't be comfortable right now discussing my ideas, because I want to make sure I write them down I want to make sure I dig into the budget a little bit more and I get the city manager's perspective on it, perhaps also the finance director. That way, when I come here, I have a little bit more conviction. I have a little bit more direction of where I'm going, how much I feel like this is a move that we should make, and yeah, so that's my outlook on that.
Any of my other colleagues? Okay. So, I mean, also, I do want to point some other thing, and I think Councilmember Flores was the only one that brought it up in regards to the comments that we received. Um, I think it was what, 12, 13, 14, two of them not being on agenda. I remember a year ago before I was on this dais, um, and we had a bunch of other comments that came in as well. Obviously, last year was a different environment. We were just barely in the pandemic. We was very uncertain to what was going to happen. Obviously now the tables have turned. We seem to have a surplus. You know, we will have a surplus, and for next year we're even going to do way better. Um, but I feel like there's something that we should address, and a lot of times, and that's what the community is saying, right? I think one of the comments that was brought up, which I think is very viable, and I think that we should maybe capitalize on it. And to an extent, I think we did, but we should have done a little bit more proactive job about it, which was the community survey stakeholders analysis. And seeing how much we're going to actually balance that information that we got from our community to maybe do some sort of participatory budget as a form from the budget that was currently proposed. I don't know how much of that was actually taken into consideration, but that's something that we talked about, and we were going to use that document, that information that we gathered from our residents, and have that's where we're going to base a part of our budget from, right? Obviously, you know, I don't think if the survey was proposed, I don't think an item was there about LGBTQ center, but that's certainly something that is an amazing idea. So I think that that's something that we should really consider, and that's something that was brought up in one of the in one of the comments that we received in public comments. I do want to take the time to reach out to everybody, all 12 comments that were currently read, and thank them for being a part of this conversation and sharing what they believe and what they think is right. And to an extent, I feel like this shouldn't just happen during this budget meeting. It should happen in all meetings, right? We should hear what our community wants, because at the end of the day, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, City Manager Mike, we can amend this budget any time of the year. We can change this budget at any time. It's just a matter of like July 1st hits or June meeting hits. Okay, now we got to start, you know, prepping for it, and we got to start doing it, because that's just something we do every year. Um, but in regards to ideas, since I mean, Councilmember Flores shared some, and then obviously the rest of my colleagues want to meet privately in regards to talking about it, I'll share some of my ideas and see maybe we can talk about it. If anybody wants to chime into what I think, I'm not going to make any motions. I will say that, as there's already a motion in a second, I think, prepared, or a motion already on the floor in a second, I think, by Councilmember Cortez. And this is just some things that I'm going to discuss with the city manager in the private meeting, but I figured it's important for all of you to know about, because at the end of the day, it's not just going to be me and the city manager that are going to vote on this. It's going to be all of us, right? And I want to hear maybe your take. And who knows, maybe I have ideas that maybe you didn't think about, but hey, you know what? That's a good idea. Maybe I should add that, and maybe we should propose that to the city manager as well when each of you meet with them independently. So my first idea that maybe we should bring to our city is potentially doing something like a farmer's market, right? Where we can have the community out and similar to like selling plants or selling like, you know, a good I don't know, vegetables, fruits, all that good stuff. I know certainly on some streets you have an influx of fruit and vegetables that some of our trees have. Why don't we have a gathering place where we can maybe share some and start gathering that with our community? That'd be great, I think. That's one of the ideas that I propose. And to add on to that, similar to the farmers market, or maybe something, you know, gathering with their community to share some fruits and vegetables, why not have a community garden? Now, we do have a community garden. I know we do. But I don't know how many of our community members know about the community garden, right? I certainly didn't know about a community garden until I got in here. And I think it's important that our community knows. So it's actually hidden. It's right next to the Montebello Ford Park Adult School. It's behind it. And I think that that's an awesome idea to maybe continually not just have that one, but maybe we should expand it. Maybe we should have other community gardens around the city, right? What a phenomenal idea, right? It's a big part. Um, Another thing that I think is a good idea is potentially having mini libraries around our city, right? I think I've seen a couple other cities do it. This is something that I mentioned to City Manager Mike about, potentially having city-sponsored libraries, mini libraries. It's like literally like a 3 bookshelf, and you can come and drop off a book, and you could have it maybe every other block or a couple of blocks down and share that with the community. What a beautiful thing, right? You can bring your kids, you could drop off a book, and you could take a book to read, right? I think last time I had brought that up, it was maybe a little bit difficult because COVID and the potential safety consequences that maybe we need to look into. But now, hopefully, COVID's going away, or it's always going to be here. But hopefully, a lot of us have gotten vaccinated, and maybe we should look into doing small community libraries around the city. And I feel pretty positive that our community would love this. Um, Another thing, and this is something that maybe Mayor Barcena and I have talked about, because I used to work in this environment, which was creating maybe a satellite location for residents in the city from like Hub Cities Consortium, right? So Hub Cities is this amazing nonprofit that services our community along with, I think, 7 other communities in the Southeast that provides job development, resume building, interview skills, whatnot. This amazing program that we have to our disposal as a city. The thing is that it's located in Huntington Park, right? So it's a bit difficult for our residents to go all the way to Huntington Park or take advantage of these resources. And a lot of the stuff has been virtual because I used to intern with them. But what an amazing thing of potentially having that here in our own city, maybe creating a satellite location, right? That would give our students and our teenagers the opportunity to work, right? Get job resources. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the app next door, but I've seen a couple students get on that app and ask for summer jobs, right? A lot of our community teenagers are looking for jobs at this time, right? In part because of their parents either losing employment due to the pandemic. So that's another great idea that I thought that maybe we should look into. So right away, we got farmers market, a community garden, libraries around the city, a job center for for our youth, right? Not just for our youth, but the reason I mention youth is because if you look at the census, most of our community is made up by youth. So I think that's a good thing that we should look into. Um, I mean, those are just a couple of ideas. I wanted to share a couple and see what maybe any of you thought. I hope that not any of you are against it, right? But these are just some cool things that I think our community would love. Um, and um, and along that, I mean, the LGBTQ Center, an amazing thing that we could have in our city, right? Imagine all Sela communities, all Sela cities coming to BG and we can be that representative of the LGBTQ people in our city, right? Amazing thing in the Sela community. So, I don't think necessarily money is an issue. I think we have a decent amount of funding, not just this year, but coming forward next year. And yeah, I don't know. Thank you so much for that. I hope y'all enjoyed my little dialogue on that.
So just to respond, farmers market is something that this council has been actively trying to work on. Due to COVID, however, all that was hindered, but it is something that we put in the radar of staff, and I know they've been looking into it, but again, the pandemic threw everything off. The community garden is also an item that this council has been actively trying to work on, but some things that are hindering that is that we are trying to acquire a grant, and we've been trying to acquire a grant to fix our Veterans Park, which is where we had the original intention of having this community garden. Also, during the pandemic, it was brought up to city manager's attention that there was an org that had actually grant money to create a community garden, but then that pandemic happened and everything. So it's a matter of retaking just those 2 programs. Mini libraries, great idea, but from what I've seen, City of Cudahy did it without outside of the council. So it's maybe a project that we can engage in outside of council. And that is it that I have.
Any input on the job center, job development for our teens? I mean, I know we have sub cities, and this is something that Mayor Barcena and I are pretty comfortable in, that we've worked with them.
I actually have a comment in
Mhm,
regards
yeah.
to to the ideas for the hub cities. As you know, I'm on the board for hub cities. I believe you were an intern there before you came to council, and I want to encourage you to reach out to me, right? I think we're all here to work with each other, and I think that's a common interest between us. But I haven't yet really heard from you as far as starting of, having a structured dialogue on bringing this to Bell Gardens. I've been working on my own with the city manager. We're now offering information about hub cities over at the police department for impacted members of our community. So there are things that are sort of in motion, but I feel like I would welcome more engagement coming from you, Councilmember Chavez. I do appreciate your effort to bring all these ideas to us. I do think that they're, while a bit lengthy, and I don't mean to be too critical, they do end up having a positive impact, right? I am now thinking of, I have a question for the city manager in regards to last year's budget, I believe, or even 2 years ago. I remember there was a portion of the recreation and community services budget that might have been allocated for special events, and I think the final planning for those special events was to be determined by the council at a later time. Are we doing anything similar in this particular budget for this year?
Yes, Mayor Barcena. So we have, and I'll turn it over to Roseanne just to cue her up in a second there, but we've rebudgeted for all of the traditional events that the city has done in the past, plus some new ones as well. So there is monies there for, citywide events. If the council were to, come up with one, as the year comes on, you're going to see the normal events as we get into the holidays, Fiestas Patrias, Dia de los Muertos, Christmas, New Year's, and all that. And then also for the Bell Gardens Ambassador program that was discussed about 6 months ago. So there are monies there. Roseanne, I don't recall off the top of my head the total budget we have for such community events. I think it's, I won't take a guess. Can you fill in some detail there for the mayor, please?
I don't exactly know the number, but maybe Manuel can pull it up. But Mayor Barcena, we did budget for a number of community-wide events. We have summer concerts, which will be 9 or 10 concerts. We have summer movies. We will also be extending concerts in the fall, the winter, and the spring. We have a mariachi festival scheduled for the spring. We have block parties that will be conducted on Saturdays at the small parks for this starting in July. We will be also having a back to school event that will take place in early August that will be complete with haircuts and preparations. We're also doing a family health fun festival. We'll be doing our 5K and health fair event in October. And we have a senior health fair that we'll be doing. We'll be going back to our flu vaccine clinics. We have all of those events. We have a number of outdoor recreational classes that are starting. We will be breaking information shortly. We have youth robotics classes, Lego robotics classes that will be being held on weekends. We will be having a science camp this summer. We also have the STEM curriculum for youth. We're getting back our Tiny Tots. We have a number of parent and me classes that will be coming online. So we have been extremely busy trying to get our programming back. But you will see definitely a very active summer as we've been given permission to operate. We will also be working cooperatively with the police department to promote National Night Out and a number of their events so that we can work collectively on those programs. And for sure, Halloween, we're looking at a festival for Halloween, plus a movie night during the month of October, because that was so popular this past October. We want to do another drive-in movie of some sort. Just depending on the weather, we kind of think in the winter we might need to do something like that. But
Roseanne, not to interrupt you, but I think that's a lot of information there. So, and I appreciate it. I think for Mayor Barcena, we can provide some more detail, all the council members on the lineup of events that we have. It's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. If we could even do a presentation to the council, even if let's say this budget were approved today, just randomly, even though that's not what we're asking you for. The money's not spent until the council until it's brought to the council for actual expenditure. And so We can show you what we've got up as far as the lineup through the fiscal year. And then if there's a desire to allocate some additional monies in a pot that's unallocated but budgeted, we could certainly do something like that. Thanks, Roseanne. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Thank you, City Manager, and thank you, Roseanne. So I guess this sort of reinforces my observation that even though the budget, we have budgeted for certain events and certain things in the Recreation and Community Services Department. I mean, what I like about Jorge's suggestions is that some of those items are not even huge ticket items, right? Like, for example, the library at the park, it's something that I've actually written emails to our director. Obviously, because of the pandemic, it just seemed like it wasn't the right time. However, working together as a council, we could probably get that going as soon as we're ready to go, right? As soon as the pandemic sort of ceases and we get the green light from that perspective. So what I'm trying to say here, Jorge, is that I feel like we have a lot of opportunity to get most of these things that you're thinking of done. In fact, some of them are already partially manifesting, such as the hub cities information that we're now, it's sort of like a referral program that we have going on with the police department. I think that's something that is not a full satellite location of hub cities, but hey, it's already going in that direction. So we could continue to explore that. Again, based on my motion to look into what each council member wants to do in regards to the budget, I think we'll have another opportunity to further discuss and hopefully also in a more structured and practical manner. So I think in the interest of time, unless somebody else has other comments, I'm going to go ahead and just go back to the motion and call for a vote. I believe I had a
Mayor,
motion.
do we need a motion to have meetings? Because I don't believe this is specific direction with regards to the specifics of the budget. So I think it suffices.
I will go ahead and ask legal. The motion was specifically to reach out to each council member and have a one-on-one session in regards to the budget if each one of the council members desires to.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, it would be appropriate to do a motion just so that there's clarity in what you're asking for, or you can just give direction to staff. As long as that direction is clear, that's appropriate as well. I think the key here is just that Mike and his staff understand exactly what you're asking.
Okay, given that it's a specific request that I'm making, I'll go ahead and leave it as a motion. And is there a second for that?
I'll second your motion.
Okay, second by Councilmember Cortez, and I'll take it to a roll call. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Thank you. Cortez?
Yes.
Thank you. Flores?
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Pulido?
Yes.
And yes for myself, so motion carries. Thank
And-
you, everyone, for the presentation.
Yes, and Mayor, Councilmember Chavez, I know, I mean, you've been with us for 6 months, but I want to reiterate again my invitation. We have an open door policy, most of us, for our office. If you want to go ahead and, speak to us with regards to any of these matters. I know you weren't here. I don't particularly like, telling you like, hey, we've been working on this, we've been working on this on the dais. But if you do want to discuss certain issues, ideas, as long as just one of us, we can fill you in as to what this council has been working on in the past 2 years that we've been here, and then that way we can move forward that way. So again, I'm putting my invitation out there.
If I may, Mayor Barcena, respond.
Please go ahead.
Thank you for that. And I will respond to both Councilmember Cortez and Mayor Barcena in regards to the request to meeting with y'all. Absolutely. I would love to meet with each of you and maybe discuss some of the, I'll even meet with Councilmember Flores, since I wasn't here when all three of you were here. As me and Mayor Pro Tem Pulido are, the newest on the council. What I will say is, at the same time, as we are new to this council, that Hub Cities consortium, I know that each of us is appointed to the ad hocs. It's good to also share the updates during these meetings, right? In council member comments, we always have that opportunity to share updates into what we've been doing or just any sort of compliments that we're giving. So I'd also invite all of you to maybe share some of the things that y'all are doing in your own ad hoc committees. I think I try to do that, but at the same time, I sometimes just update the community on a lot of the events that are coming up. But at the same time, I'm only on 3 ad hocs, and I think for 2 of them, I'm an alternative, and then on one of them, I meet like quarterly. So other than that, I mean, at the same time, I'd request that all of you share your input and what you're doing on your own ad hocs, because that'd be interesting too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councilmember Chavez. And now moving to public participation on non-agenda items. Public participation is now open for non-agenda items. City Clerk, are there any speakers? I'm sorry to interrupt, Madam City Clerk, but we can't hear your voice on the Zoom call. We're just gonna take a minute to troubleshoot this before we move on with the meeting.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear
Okay,
me now?
we can hear you
Okay.
now. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Oh,
Okay, the first one is from Angelica Tamada. Restaurants should be able to host pop-up shops which fall under the special event permit application type 1 category as either a bake sale or parking lot sale. Small businesses need to be supported during this time. Angelica Tamada, Bell Gardens resident. And then the final one is from Paulo Sala. To whom it may concern, I've lived in Bell Gardens since 78, 79 to the present. I'm a proud resident. I was wondering if the city of Bell Gardens can put a flashing speed sign to let drivers see how fast they're driving. Place one mid-block on Jamboree Road between Lubbock Street and Gage Avenue or Loveland Street. I'm thinking safety of the kids and residents. There has been many traffic accidents in these locations. Cross traffic of Loveland Street and Jamboree Road. They should have never placed the four-way stop sign at this location with traffic lights. It's chaos at times. The speed is 35 miles on Jamboree, just passing Loveland Street, going towards Lubbock Street. People travel high speed when the lights are all green from Gage Avenue to Lubbock Street on Jamboree Road. It's like a racetrack. The crazy, I live on the block 6512 Jamboree Road. It's right next to the Cesar Chavez Elementary School. It should be 25 miles. The problem is when traveling south on Jamboree Road, passing Gage Avenue, approaching Loveland Street on green light, I've seen vehicles travel at high speed, at least over 50 miles on residential area. It would be appreciated if someone can look into this and get back to me. Second concern, left turn traffic light east on Florence Avenue. When sitting at the left turn traffic light trying to go north on Jamboree Road, sometimes never happens because it never turns green. I've been stuck there many times as well as other citizens. It's dangerous and a hazard as that left turn traffic light doesn't operate correctly or in sequence with traffic. I've seen people maneuver or try to get out of the left turn east on Florence Avenue with other vehicles behind them stuck because the left turn light doesn't work properly. It has skipped me several times from 3 to 6 light sequence until it turns green to make the left from Florence Avenue onto North Jamboree Road. Can you please see or investigate because I feel it's a traffic hazard. Please advise. And then they list their phone number. Thank you very much, Paulo Sala. And that concludes public comment, Mayor.
thank you, Madam City Clerk. Seeing that there aren't any more public comments, if there's no objection by the City Council, I will close public participation and move on to City Council member comments. And we are going to go ahead and get started with Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you so much for that, Mayor Barcena. I'm just going to make it pretty short and sweet. Thank you for all of us for being here. Really appreciate the time. Thank you to all of our city staff for doing an incredible job in this meeting, presenting us the budget. It's a very lengthy document. I think this has been the longest meeting that I've had while being on council. Thank you to everybody who called into the meeting as well. And with that said, I want to make it short and sweet again. And thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Chavez, are you sure this has been the longest one? Because I feel like one time we went really, really long, but
10? Okay, maybe, okay. Well, I just feel like perhaps, yeah, well, then we did have that going outside. We did do the
that's right.
LGBTQI for maybe it's just been a little bit more active. Yeah.
But I appreciate it though. Thank
Yeah,
you for
sure.
being mindful of the time.
Thank you.
And now moving on to Councilmember Cortez.
Let's see. Again, just thank you, staff, for everything that you do. Thank you to our awardees. So our basketball team for being here, Mr. Vega. Happy birthday to the other person that we honored. With that, just have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, Councilmember Cortez. Councilmember Flores.
Yes. Thank everybody for logging in. I just wanted to highlight one thing. This Friday morning, right? The police department actually took us out for some police training, and it was actually. Can you hear me? Oh, sorry. I thought you guys were saying like can't talk. Okay, sorry. They took us out for some what was it called? De-escalation scenario, and I just want everybody to know that I failed miserably. I killed everyone. An officer was shot multiple times. I would be a terrible officer. I shot a couple in the back. I don't know. He kept moving, so I kept shooting.
I want to clarify that that was all a simulation, okay? So nobody actually
Kind of.
got shot. I just want to make that very
I
clear.
think they were like rubber bullets or silicone, or I don't know, plastic. I don't know.
It was all simulation.
Okay, well, anyhow. So I just wanted to thank you, Chief, for taking the time to do that, because it is your leadership that brought us together to be able to put ourselves in these situations that otherwise we wouldn't be able to do that. So thank you, Chief, for doing that. And then also I wanted to congratulate all of the grads of 2021. We know it's been a difficult year. Councilmember Cortez and Mayor Pro Tem Pulido and myself had the opportunity to visit Bell Gardens High School's graduation, and it was very impactful, the speeches that the young women gave, because it was all women, I should add. And I want to congratulate you all. And if you're watching this, just know that this is only the beginning, and it's not where you start that matters, it's where you finish. So just keep going. It's going to get better. I promise. And lastly, Roseanne, as we're talking about events, I'd like to give direction to have the first Christmas parade, and I think in over 20 years. I feel like we have a high school with a phenomenal marching band that's been given multiple awards. And we have our middle schools with a lot of dance programs and different programs that we can, portray and parade, I guess, in our community. And this is just a way to gain more community pride. So let's see if we're able to accomplish that. I'm confident that you and your team will be able to pull this through. And for that is all for tonight. And I want to thank everybody again for tuning in and for all of our staff and their time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councilmember Flores. Mayor Pro Tem Pulido.
I want to thank the staff for all the work that you put in putting together the proposed budget, putting together events. It takes a lot of effort and teamwork. Thank you very much. I also want to express that I'm very excited to finally have a pride flag displayed outside of City Hall. The flag does symbolize, at least to me, acknowledgement, support, and appreciation of our LGBTQ plus community. And I look forward to planning events and services to support our community and also to celebrate them all. I think this has been long overdue. And the flag is a symbol. And I think that with understanding that our community is multi generational, it does allow us to have that conversation about those individuals that maybe feel that they go unnoticed or unappreciated, and we can start having that dialogue and share love with everybody. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you.
Mayor, before you say your comments, I forgot something.
Okay, please go ahead.
I just want to wish all the fathers here a happy Father's Day. Well, I'm not a parent myself, but Happy Father's Day to everyone, Chief, City Manager, everyone who has children here. I hope you have a very beautiful Sunday with your kids and your grandbabies as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Cortez. And thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for your words. I want to ask the city manager in regards to one of the public comments that was submitted, the one that specifies the intersections, and it's very detailed. It looks like the resident really took their time to provide that information to us. Can you tell me what the process is when we get something like this, and if we're going to be looking into it, and can you please keep me posted on what happens with this? And the reason why I'm asking is because I recently received a similar complaint. Actually, today I received a similar complaint. So I'm probably just gonna send it over your way. It is also about a traffic light on Eastern and Lubeck. And but just for our residents' information, what is usually the process that we take when somebody submits a complaint of this nature, of this type?
Sure, Mayor Barcena. So the normal course, depending on how it comes in, it could come in through a council, it could come in through the website, could come in through somebody just knocking on the front door there. So what we normally do is I'd call the Public Works Director, give her the information. I'm sure she's already wrote the information down already today from the member of the public. And then we look at it from an engineering standpoint to see what's going on there. Oftentimes we'll see there's line of sight issues. I think some of these complaints have resulted in maybe some red curbing that's been added or taken away, things like that, just to look to see if there are improvements that would result in net positive improvements. And I think to manage the expectations, in some cases, they're not unsafe environments, and making changes sometimes could result in net negatives. So sometimes somebody might feel like nothing was done, but the things that could be done may result in a net negative situation. So we look at it from that perspective, but we're always trying to do what we can do to make things better and to improve. So if we're made aware of a situation like that, we just get eyes on the ground and take a look at it and respond to the resident. But it would usually be through the Public Works Department.
Thank you for that, city manager. So I want to encourage everyone to reach out directly to the Public Works Department if it's anything to do with the streets, or maybe a light, or maybe even trees. For example, you can reach out directly to the Public Works Department. You're always welcome to call me or any of the council for that matter. I always try to get back to any messages that are left on my cell phone. And I do keep track of everyone that reaches out to me. I keep track of when I contact staff in regards to that issue. So, you're welcome to contact me if you feel like, for whatever reason, maybe you're having trouble getting service in any branch of our government. Please feel free to reach out. And I want to thank staff also for being very responsive, because even if you reached out to me, if I didn't have good staff here, then nothing will get done. But every single time that I reached out to, whether it is the Community Services Department, the Community Development Department, or Public Works, I always get a prompt response. And I want to thank all the directors for that. I know that you guys put a lot of effort into getting back to the residents. So I really appreciate that. And thank you also, City Manager, for having your staff so well prepared for that. And I don't want to make it any longer. I really appreciate everyone that tuned into the meeting. I appreciate all the comments that were submitted. I know that you guys are doing your best to communicate your point of view, and I can tell because it's very thoughtful. So please keep submitting whatever the topic is. Just be involved in your government. I think that that always really makes these meetings a lot better. And we're out here listening, and we're out here trying to do the right thing in order to help all the residents of Bell Gardens to the best of our ability. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you to staff, and thank you to my colleagues, especially Jorge. Thank you for being patient with me. I know that I know that I sometimes hint at the duration of your comments, but that's just me from being in Toastmasters for such a long time. I'm always about time. Like, my mind is always on a timer when it comes to speaking. So I appreciate the patience, and if you need to keep going, just keep going. Don't tell anyone I said that, but all right, everybody, you guys have a good night, and I'm going to go ahead and officially adjourn the meeting at 8:54 p.m.